Hello everyone, welcome back to another lesson on Excel conditional formatting. In today's lesson, we are going to talk about how to use dates and some of the other advanced features in conditional formatting. So we will learn some examples wherein we will format the data based on some special conditions and then try to see how the conditional formatting can help us. So are you ready? Unlike the previous two examples where the formatting was already set and shown to you, in this example I'll take a different route and I will start with empty, no formatting data, and we will try to highlight in certain way for each of these tables. The way we are going to learn this is, we have a list of patients and their admission dates. This is a hypothetical example of some patients visiting a hospital. So we have their database, like in one column all the names of the patients and in another column their admission dates. And we are trying to highlight patients who visited the hospital in the last 1 week. In this particular table we want to show that. In the next example we will try to show the similar thing, but instead of last week we will do it for the last 1 month. And in the last example we are going to highlight any patients who have visited us since yesterday. The next set of examples I have is for some kind of patient analysis, wherein we have all the list of patients who visited the hospital this month and who visited the hospital in the last month. Believe me, this has to be a really tiny hospital, otherwise the list of patients will be very large. But from example point of view, I just kept the data as minimal as possible, but you can have a lot more data in your day-to-day examples. Nevertheless, the whole conditional formatting and the concepts will work in the same way. Okay, that said, in this list we have this month and last month of patients, and what we want to do is we want to highlight all the patients who visited the hospital in both the months. For example, in this, Bob visited both this month and last month. Similarly, same data is shown, but instead of highlighting people who visited both months, we want to visit people who visited only this month. That means Bob will not be highlighted, but John can be highlighted because he visited only this month, but he didn't visit us last month. The last set of examples I have is list of data where patient and their admission numbers are given. This is some kind of fictitious data again, and we want to highlight patients who have repeated. So for example, Elliot came twice and Carla came twice, like that. So we want to highlight people who have repeated, and we also want to highlight people who have not repeated, so they have visited only once in the whole duration. So these are very practical and day-to-day examples of conditional formatting, and we will try to see what kind of built-in features in Excel conditional formatting we can use, and some of the additional stuff like new things in Excel 2007 and above, how they can help us quickly meet our objectives. Okay. So in order to highlight patients in the last week, you can select this and then we will write some conditional formatting rules that will highlight. But before even doing that, I want to show some new features in Excel 2007 that will simplify this task very greatly. For that, go to the home, select conditional formatting, and then here there is an option called highlight cells rules, and then select a date occurring. This is a new option that is introduced in Excel 2007. It will be there in Excel 2010 as well. If you select this, you can see some rules based on which you can highlight the conditional formatting. You can specify the rule. So here what Excel has done is they have provided several rules. So if you select something like last week, and instantly Excel can actually comes up with some predefined formats. For example, green fill with dark green text, like this. So as soon as you select, Excel automatically shows the highlighted values. Excel automatically highlights the values that are occurring in the last 1 week. Remember, this will change. This is dynamic, so if you close this file, save this conditional formatting rule and open it next week, you will see a different set of cells highlighted. Probably none of these will be highlighted because all of these values are only up to this week. That's why I have shown the recording date here. I have recorded this video on February 20th 2010. So as of that date, what are the values in the last 1 week? It is highlighting here because the week is defined as, since February 20th is Saturday, it is the current week is Monday to Sunday and the previous week is the one before it. So these are the values that are in that week. If you select this week, it will be highlighting 14th of February. And the problem with this approach is you cannot select the entire set of data and highlight. You can only highlight the date values. Let me try this. It is going to only highlight this particular column of values, not these, because these are not dates. So Excel cannot actually highlight the corresponding values in other columns because the admission date is in the last week. So to overcome that, you can actually write a formula. To do that, let us create a new rule and then use a formula to determine which cells to format. Select this option, and then we will use a rule that will tell Excel that if the value in column C is a date that occurs in the last 1 week, then highlight the entire row. To do that, remember the first cell is C5. Since we have to only check column C, not column B, we have to use $C5. Let me finish writing this formula, then I will explain it to you how it works. To keep it simple, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it in such a way that I have altered the definition of last week. It is the previous 7 days starting today. Okay, so that it will keep things a little bit simpler for us. And the condition for checking whether a date is in the last 7 days is that it should be less than or equal to today's date, and it should be greater than the 7 days before today, the date as of that date. So let us say today's date is Feb 20th. The last 1 week is defined as something like 14th onwards up to 20th. That's how I have defined the last week. You can also change this definition and try to look at it for last previous work week and things like that. The way Excel conditional formatting predefined rules are working. Let us go back to our formula and I will explain how this is working. To do that, go to Manage Rules and double click on this. You can see the formula here. What we are trying to do is we need to check two conditions and both of them should be satisfied. So to do that, we have to use this AND formula, AND AND formula, and we have to check two different conditions. The first condition is the date in C column C, is it less than or equal to today's date? That is the first condition. The second condition we have to check is it greater than 7 days, is the date after 7 days from today. It's a little bit tricky to say in English, but then you get the point that the date should have occurred in the last 7 days. That's what we are trying to convey here. So once you set this rule, if it is true, both these conditions are true, the AND formula is going to give us a true value. And whenever it is true, we want Excel to apply this formatting, the fill color in this, and okay. So only this value is highlighted here. A similar logic can be applied for patients in the last month. To do that, I will select these values and go to conditional formatting, create a new rule, use formula to determine which cell to format, and in this case the value is in column F. So we are going to write, again I will use the definition of last month as any date occurring in the last 30 days. In order to get the 30 date as of 30 days before, you just have to subtract 30 minus today. So it highlights all the values in the last 1 month. Since today's date is February 20th, strictly speaking, anybody who joined on or after Jan 21st until February 20th should be highlighted. Maybe Jan 22nd, since there are 32 days, 31 days in January. So all the values in December and the first week of January, second week of January need not be highlighted. That's how it works. Again, just to understand, you can change this formula of last month to last year, the month before that, or the last 45 days or last 10 working days. Any of these ways you can alter these formulas. There are some very powerful date formulas in Excel. But the key to understand this whole thing is there are two things that you should keep in mind. One is that these formulas are dynamic. That means when you close this Excel workbook and open it after 2 weeks or next month, the highlighting will be changed to some other cells. Hopefully none of them will be highlighted, because if the data remains like this, it is good in one way, but it is also bad in another way, because then you don't know why the whole report is prepared. So maybe a good idea is to actually use a cell where the date is entered and use that for the formulas instead of using the today formula. For example, you could write the date here, February 2009, and then use this value in cell B1 to drive the report, so that as of that date, what are the patients visited in the last 1 week, last 1 month, you can highlight. This is just a suggestion, but I think in most scenarios you may really want to have a dynamic behavior. The second thing to understand about this kind of a report is that the highlighting is very easy to change. You can change the formulas. If you use the built-in behaviors of Excel 2007, you can only highlight values in the date column. You cannot highlight the values in other columns, so it may be a limitation. So to avoid that, you have to write a formula. The beauty of this approach over the built-in approach in Excel 2007 is that this rule will work even in Excel 2003 or previous versions. Because we are using a formula based approach and formulas are supported in earlier versions, it works just well. Whereas a feature like this is introduced only in Excel 2007, so it may not be supported in the previous versions. The last example I want to show is patients who joined since yesterday. Now this is a very straightforward example, so I'm just going to show it using this rule here, a date occurring yesterday, and press OK. Since there is nobody who joined the hospital yesterday, there is nothing highlighted. But the moment I change a date to, sorry, I just realized that even here it is. I think my mind is still in 2009. Okay, so the moment I change a date here, the value is also going to get highlighted, because now it is yesterday. You close this file and you reopen it tomorrow, it will not be highlighted. So that is the beauty of this. Make sure when you download this example file, you actually change some of these dates to test the conditions, because depending on when you download the file, some of the dates may not work. Some of the highlighting may look broken. That concludes the first part of our lesson today, highlighting values based on dates. The next examples I want to show are a set of patients are given for this month and last month. This is very frequently useful, this kind of analysis. We want to know who are common in both months. This may be the case for example, if you are analyzing some features in two projects and you want to know what are the features that are common in both projects. Or if you have built if you have two custom orders from two customers and you want to find out how many items are repeated in both. And this kind of analysis is very useful because then it will give you an immediate idea of what is repeating and what is not repeating. You can analyze repeat customers and all these kind of things with that. But when you have hundreds of record, it is actually a little boring, because then you cannot scan the entire list to find out where the people in first month are repeated in the second month. So to avoid that, you can use conditional formatting. The way we are going to do this is patients who visited both months, we want to highlight them. Okay, so to get started, one of the primary assumptions that I am making here is that a patient is this is the unique list. This list itself does not have any repetitions. That means Bob is shown only once, John is shown only once. Okay, similarly Bob here is also shown only once in that column, because this is a list of all the unique patients in this month, and this is the list of unique patients in the last month. Given that, we want to select this entire table and highlight any repetitions. To do that, what is the kind of rule that we require? The rule that we require is anybody whose name is repeated more than once, they should be highlighted, since they're going to be appearing in both months. This is a very simple and straightforward rule, and we are going to do this by select the entire range, go to conditional formatting, create a new rule, and select this use formula, and look at the cells here. The first cell is in cell B26. Since for each cell we want to highlight, we don't have to use any dollars. Select COUNTIF for this entire range, how many times Bob has occurred, that is B26. Is it greater than 1? This is the condition we are going to check. Let us look at this condition once again. What we are checking is how many times the guy Bob has repeated in this entire range. If that count is more than 1, then we want to highlight him, because he is a repeat patient, and maybe we may want to take an extra care for him. Now you know that there are 5 people this month and last month, and they're both highlighted in both respective lists. So it's very easy for you to scan this list and find out how maybe call them up or find out why they are actually repeating. A similar example is people who have visited only this month. So since this is only this month, we want to highlight the values in this month column here. We just want to highlight people who have occurred only once in this entire list. To do that, select this list, go to conditional formatting, create a new rule, select formula, and the rule that we need to write is, look at the cells here, E26. Okay, COUNTIF, we want to count all the values in this range, then E26, is it 1? What we want to ensure is that the person Bob in this E26 cell should have occurred only once in this entire range. Okay, I guess that is since we are only checking for the values in this month column, it works perfectly alright. So for this month, for each person, the Excel is going to see how many times the person has occurred in this entire range, and press OK. Okay, so now if you look at this list and this list, both of them are same. So you can see that John, Perry, Samantha, Carla, they have visited only this month, and Now they are highlighted here. So this is a very simple and straightforward approach wherein we want to highlight the people who have visited us only this month. You can do this kind of analysis, comparing this month with last month, this week with last week, or this year with last year, using the COUNTIF formulas. COUNTIF, as I said in that COUNTIF formula lesson, is one of the very powerful formulas, and it's very beautiful, simple to use formula. I hope you understood the concepts behind this kind of setup, wherein we need to highlight values that are occurring in both months or occurring only 1 month. This is very useful because you can avoid any repetitions or omissions or mistakes, or find out the reasons once the values are highlighted. The next set of features that we are going to learn is highlighting repeat and highlighting unique customers. This is similar to the example here, but the example here is comparing 2 sets of lists, whereas this is just one list, the list of all the patients, and we want to highlight people who have repeated in this list. Carla is repeated and Elliot is repeated. So we want to highlight those people and draw attention to them. To do that, you can actually select this list like this. Go to conditional formatting. Again, this is a new feature that is introduced in Excel 2007. So highlight cells rules and then duplicate values. Okay. If you select duplicate, Excel is going to highlight all the people who are duplicated. Press OK. So Carla is highlighted, Samantha is highlighted, and so is Elliot. Similar approach can be used to highlight unique values. To do that, just select this list of guys, go to conditional formatting, manage rules, and change this rule from duplicate to unique. So now people who have not repeated have been highlighted. Okay, but one of the limitations of this approach is that you cannot highlight the entire both columns. You can only highlight one column. This is the same problem that we had with the dates. To prove you that, just go to highlight cells, duplicate values, and I think first we need to clear these rules here. Now when I select duplicate, Excel automatically highlighted the values in this column, but it didn't highlight the values in the corresponding column, corresponding row in the next column. But we would like to highlight the admission number also, otherwise it looks kind of odd. So to create that kind of thing, what we need to do is again use formulas, and we are going to use the COUNTIF formula once again. Select all the cells and conditional formatting, create a new rule, select the formula option, and write a rule that will say to Excel that we want to highlight values, we want to highlight the entire row whenever the value in column B, that is the patient column, whenever the value in column B is repeated. So to do that, we need to write a COUNTIF formula. In this range, how many times the value in $B48 has repeated. Again, look at this carefully. What we are telling is how many times the value in B48 has repeated in the range B48 through B59. This is the range. We have to use a dollar here, extra dollar before B, because even though Excel is formatting values in column C, it has to check for the condition in column B. So is it greater than 1? If so, just format it with that. Now Excel has neatly highlighted both values. A similar approach can be used to highlight unique values. To do that, select the cells, go to conditional formatting, create a new rule, specify the type of rule as formula, and again we are going to use a COUNTIF formula. In this range, $E48 equal to 1. It's E, not F. So if patient will be unique if he has not repeated in this list, and select that. Now the guys in white here are highlighted here. So this is drawing attention to the people who have not repeated in the list. Again, the conclusion from this kind of lessons, this entire lesson, is that countif formula appears to be one of the most powerful formulas in Excel, and you can use it in places like conditional formatting as well. Okay, I hope you understood the concepts behind this lesson, and I wish that you will use some of these concepts to enhance your reports or speed up your analysis or improve your Excel sheets. Discuss these topics using the comments feature and ask any questions that you may be having related to these topics in the comment section, so that I can help you, or somebody who knows better than me can also help you. Okay. To conclude, what we have learned today is we have learned how to highlight a set of values meeting a particular date condition. The condition can be like highlighting the values in the last 1 week or last month or since yesterday. And we have learned that these conditions are often dynamic, meaning that they will change whenever the date also changes. We have also learned how to compare two lists for repetitions or omissions. In this case, we have compared the list of patients in this month with the list of patients last month and highlighted the values wherever there is a repetition. In this case, we have highlighted the values in this month such that the value occurred only once in this month. People have not repeated in the next month. And the final set of examples, what we have learned is we have learned to highlight people who have repeated in a particular list using both options, using an option of duplicate values feature in Excel 2007, and the second option is using a formula which works in all versions of Excel. Not all, of course, the versions that are after the conditional formatting is introduced in Excel. In the last example, what we have learned is an opposite of this previous example. So we have learned to highlight the unique values in a list. I hope you have enjoyed this this lesson on the conditional formatting, where we learned how to work with dates and duplicate values. I encourage you to explore these features and share your feedback and concerns or concerns using the comments feature. Thank you. You have a good day.